button if you haven't already. Share out the stream. That'd be great as well. Tigers get a run rule victory, 10-1 over Louisiana Tech. They bounce back after dropping the series against Mississippi State. Improve their record to 18-4, and now will turn their focus back to SEC play when they welcome in the Florida Gators this weekend for 3 games at Alex Box Stadium. We have plenty to get to before we get to that point, namely recapping this game against Louisiana Tech. There was a lot of good, but look, I will remind you, and we'll go through all of it, but I will remind you what we talked about in the preview for this game. All this was going to be is a chance to see LSU bounce back, solve all of the problems here in this ball game. But I thought Louisiana Tech was quite literally the perfect test for LSU after the weekend that they had, where you really struggled on the field, and you struggled on the field again tonight, but we'll get to that. And you really struggled on the mound, but here against the Bulldogs, you were going to face a really formidable lineup that had 8 seniors in it, was hitting .309 as a team, put an awful lot of pressure on the opposition, had a home run per game. They struck out in 17% of their bats as a team, which is just incredible. And for what it's worth, LSU, I look it up real fast. They didn't feel like they struck out a bunch of guys tonight. And in fact, they only struck out 6. So, La Tech was true to form there. But it's just one of those opportunities to really see what you were made of against a team that was going to put a lot of pressure on you at the plate. And LSU passed that test. Love that we got the midweek game here, and you got to see a lot of different pitchers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pitchers for LSU. They played 8 innings. So, you really could have kept going had you not had the the run rule there. But I think we'll all take the run rule. Tommy White is just on an incredible heater. And y'all, we talked about it here. You could feel it coming. You watched him in that State little 2-game midweek set, and you really started to see him hit the baseball hard. And he just kept getting robbed and robbed and robbed. And we talked about it going into that Mississippi State weekend. He was ready to break out. He had 5 hits that weekend, including 3 homers. Had 4 hits tonight, including another homer. So Tommy White is now homered in 4 straight games. He's up to 6 on the season, 2 more RBI tonight. Tommy White is absolutely in fuego. So he's your standout in the lineup. But you had 12 hits tonight. You had plenty of standouts in the lineup. There was a lot of good. LSU as a team only punched out 5 times tonight. There was a lot of good in the lineup for LSU that we're going to get to. And there was a lot of good on the mound for LSU tonight as well. I would have liked to have seen the walk number a little lower. There was 5 walks, but they came from 2 pitchers. So as a whole, as a staff, you were good. You just need a few of those guys to really kind of get the walks in check. But I have a lot of thoughts, obviously, off of this game. So, look, let's go ahead and get through it. Let's run through some play-by-play of this one if we can. Y'all go ahead and smash the like button. That's greatly appreciated. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app as well. All of that does. So, look, when I look at this first inning, when I look at the top of the first inning for LSU in this ball game, it got off to a very inauspicious start. You walk the first batter of the game in Caston Furr, and then you allow McConnell to reach on an error. And you're just sitting there thinking, man, look, you're coming off the weekend that you're coming off of, and that's how you're going to come out and start this game? A walk and an error? That's not great. But you credit Javen Coleman. He really settled in nicely after that, needing just, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pitches after that to get out of the first inning. You got a pop-up. You had the fielder's choice. Originally it was called a double play on the field, but replay overturned it, rightfully so. But then George Corona grounds into a fielder's choice of his own. So it really looked like Coleman had settled in. Got out of that on just 16 pitches total, but after the first 2 reached, only needed 7 pitches to retire the side. You go to the bottom half of the first, and LSU gotten off to a better start offensively. Bingham singles, White singles, and and then Jones walks. And it was a very good at bat. You had a fastball count to a fastball hitter, and it was off the plate, and Jones was able to not be overly aggressive and drew that walk. That was great. After that, Travinsky singles to the shortstop. That scores a run. Josh Pearson singles to right field. That scores a run. Braswell singles to the left side. That scores a run. You're up 3-0 before you can even blink. Stephen Milam would ground into a double play. And then Paxton Kling is hit by a pitch, and you execute a great double steal if you're LSU to go ahead and get your 5-0 lead after one. And then it was just, okay, can they just coast in from here? And ultimately they did. In the second, I do want to touch on this. So in the second, it began the same way, in a sense, as the first. You had a leadoff walk, and then just one of the more absurd errors that you'll ever see. Javen Coleman lobs a ball over to first base instead of throwing it with some conviction on a pickoff move, and lobs it over the head of Jared Jones, allowing the runner to advance. So in 2 consecutive innings, you have a walk and an error that that start your inning. Then you have another walk to Como, and that's it for Griffin Herring. For Javen Coleman. After that, they brought in Griffin Herring. We've seen this a couple times now, and the sample size kind of continues to grow, and I'm real curious on it. That first inning, after a long offensive inning, has been a problem for LSU pitchers. Like, it just has. I mean, maybe I will dig deeper into this, and we can talk about it a little bit in between, the recap of this game and the preview of the Florida series. But that certainly, because that's not the first time we've seen that, and it's starting to grow. Like I said, the sample size is starting to grow. That seems like something that's interesting. I don't really know how you fix that. But I mean, I know it's happened to Thatcher Hurd a couple times. You could argue that it happened a little bit to Gage Jump over the weekend at Mississippi State. I think it kind of happened right there to Thatcher, to Javen Coleman, because he really looked like he had settled it in, y'all. Late in that first inning. Griffin Herring comes in though and is struggling to kind of find the release point on his breaking ball a little bit. Goes full count to the first 2 hitters he faces with runners at first and second, but gets both of them out, a fly out and then a strikeout. He would give up a single to the left side to chase home the only run of the night for La Tech, but love the comeback off of that. I mean, you gotta think, he's at the top of that order. Caston Furr's the guy who gets the single, but then Cole McConnell and he gets the strikeout. So that was massive for Griffin Herring. I thought he was one of your few bright spots over the weekend at Mississippi State, and I loved the outing he turned in here as well. Tommy White would single with 1 out in the bottom of the second, and then Jared Jones, first pitch he sees, change up, lets it travel, and just absolutely destroyed that baseball to right center field. That's something we've seen a lot more from Jared Jones year, is the opposite field power, and that's just his development as a hitter. Love that it came on an off speed pitch. That was fantastic. So at that point, look, you're up 7-1, and you feel pretty darn good. The more you go. I want to focus on the top of the third a little bit, because I think this is a little bit of where a theme started. LSU's pitching that I do think is a big step in the right direction, and something you can be encouraged about tonight, even though, it's just one game, it's just a midweek, it's a very small sample. So let me explain a little bit. Herring comes back out to start this inning, gets a ground out and a fly out, and then they go to the bullpen. They bring in Aiden Moffitt, somebody you obviously want to see a little bit more of. He walks George Corona. Corona advances to second on a wild pitch. So you have a runner in scoring position. Granted, yes, it's a 7-1 ball game, but it's still a runner in scoring position after you come in and you're a little wild. And Myers is at the plate, and again, Aiden's wild. He goes 2-0, but he gets one over the plate, and Myers helps him out by swinging at it and flies out. You strand a runner in scoring position. I thought that was massive. In the bottom of the third, credit LSU, they manufactured a run beautifully. You had the leadoff double from Kling. He advances to third on a wild pitch. After Milazzo strikes out looking, the infield is in, but Bingham hits a high chopper. with clean speed, he's going to score, and he did. So again, benefit of putting the baseball in play. I'll go to the top half of the fourth. Same type of situation. McLeod walks with 2 outs. Moffitt gives up a single to Furr, and they bring in Lure with runners at the corners. And Cole McConnell at the plate. Really good hitter, veteran, scoring opportunity. You bring in the bullpen. Credit Justin Lure. He strands the runners. That's very, very important and does it with a strikeout. And threw some really, really nice breaking balls. The bottom of the fourth is when Travinski would hit an absolute moonshot that went well over 400 feet to left field, just adding to the LSU lead. Here you go again in the top of the fifth. Another example of this. Corona singles with 2 outs. They go get Ulloa for Lure. Gives up a single to Myers. It was a play to Tommy. They ruled it an infield single. At first, I honestly thought they were going to rule it an error, but they didn't. I guess because he had to range so far over toward second base. But you do have runners at the corners. Another scoring opportunity. Credit Ulloa strands the runners. That is encouraging because of how veteran this lineup is. It's showing you what we talked about did come to fruition. La Tech put a lot of pressure on LSU, but they responded. They were able to get out of these innings stranding runners, which was fantastic to see. I mean, it's the thing I look at from the pitching staff tonight, and I go, okay, that's a step in the right direction that hopefully you can keep building on if you're LSU. After that, you have your third error of the night in the top of the sixth. Tommy White boots a ball at third. First error of the season, mind you. That's how great he's been. And he bounced back fantastic over there. Made 2 plays. I believe it was in the top of the 8th when Micah Bucknam was in there, who we have to talk about. But Ulloa, credit to him, gets a strikeout and then a foul out. You go get Cam Johnson. And, y'all, this was the best Cam Johnson has looked. Like this, you talk about a giant step in the right direction. This is the best that Cam Johnson has looked. Comes in to face Cole McConnell. This is a spot for the freshman who struggled with command at times, but comes in and gets McConnell on 4 pitches. Gets ahead of him 1-2 and dots a fastball at about 94, 95, wherever it was on the outer half of the plate, coming across his body. I mean, it was a dandy of a pitch, and it stranded another runner. Granted, he was at first base, but it stranded another runner for the LSU pitching staff. Bottom half is when Tommy White, he almost probably broke the scoreboard out in left field, adding another run, made it 10-1. That's the thing. As fun as it is to watch Tommy White just hit absolute tanks the other way, when that kid turns on a baseball, hide the children. Like, good Lord. It is a sight to behold when he really uncorks to his pull side. It's you feel bad for the ball if we're being honest. 7th inning is the last instance of what we've talked a lot about here. Dalton Davis singles up the middle. Bates reaches on a fielder's choice. So you have a runner on still. And then you go get Micah Bucknam. And this was somebody that Jay Johnson wanted to see. He talked about it in his Monday press conference. We were going to see Micah Bucknam. And let me get through this in back to bigger thoughts on Bucknam. But he comes in, immediately gets Evans to foul out, and then a fielder's choice ends the inning. And in the 8th, y'all, Bucknam was just absolute nails. I mean, dominant stuff. You're looking at a 5-pitch 8th inning for Micah Bucknam. Ground out to a combo ground out, a Coates ground out, and then Netterville strikes out looking pitches. A 6-pitch inning. You're looking at a 6-pitch inning there from Micah Bucknam. And then, look, Jake Brown draws a walk. Tommy White doubles to left field and walks him off. And that ends the ball game, run rule fashion for LSU. All right. So some overall thoughts here, and we will wrap it up. Smash the like button again if you haven't already, and get subscribed up, please, as well, if you haven't already. Let's look first at the pitching staff. Um, Javen Coleman's outing was interesting. It just wasn't enough strikes. I mean, he didn't have feel for it. We've seen that happen to him a couple times this year. I don't really want to get too worried about it because you want to see a little bit more consistency. More often than not, he's been able to pitch around it. Uh, the only instance he hasn't been able to, I guess you can kind of count tonight there, but halfway because he did get out of the one in the first inning. But the outing in Houston was the only time he wasn't able to really pitch around it. He's pitched around it just about every other time. So I'm willing to kind of keep working with him there and see where he goes. Because if he's been in the zone, y'all, he's been really, really good this year. He's just got to keep those walks down. Talked about Herring, thought he was great. Aiden Moffett, you just want to refine the control, man. The stuff's so good. He's just got to refine the control a little bit. Thought it was a really good night for Justin Lure. Loved that he was able to come in and strain those runners. That was big. And then he followed it up with some really nice pitching. He fell behind in counts, which is something you want to see him, get away from a little bit. You want to see him attack more, get ahead more. But coming off the outing he had against Mississippi State, coming into the spot that he came into, overall solid. Fidel Ulloa, same thing. Struggled with the release point on his slider early, but once he found it, I mean, he settled in and looked like the Fidelio that we've seen the majority of the year. Cam Johnson and Micah Buckner, who I really, really want to focus in on. That was the best Cam Johnson has looked. I mean, I know he had the I know he gave up the 2 hits and ended up exiting the ball game there in the seventh inning. But the at bat he executed to McConnell that's what it looks like. Like, that's what we expect. That's what we expect from the highest ranked prospect to get to campus. That at bat that he executed in the at bat against McConnell, where it's just, I mean, McConnell's a really good hitter, y'all. He's a really good player, and Cam Johnson just blew him away. Yes, I said he gave up the single to Davis, and then you had the fielder's choice. But what I really liked, there was only 1 3-ball count. He was much more in control of his stuff. He had much better command. So, look, I'm not telling you you're going to see Cam Johnson this weekend against Florida. You're probably not. But that's a major step in the right direction. Major step in the right direction for Cam. So, ecstatic about that. One guy I do think you're going to see this weekend against Florida is Micah Buckner. I will go ahead and make a prediction right now. I'll be shocked if Micah Buckner does not get mound time against the Florida Gators this weekend, because he is somebody that Jay Johnson is extremely high on, and I think Jay understands maybe what went wrong earlier in the year. He talked about that on Monday when he talked about wanting to get Buckner on the mound. Y'all might not remember, Micah Buckner came in, I believe it was against Northern Illinois, the first Northern Illinois game, and he just mowed. Like, absolutely mowed down. 2 shutout innings. We raved about him on the post games. Like, okay, oh, man. The slider is what looked so good. He was throwing it for strikes. He was burying it. The fastball had its life. Like, he looked awesome. And it was like, oh, crap. Okay, if he can do that, he's going to be a contributor on this team. And Jay even admitted he was so excited about the outing, he forced him into the game, the next day or the day after or whatnot, and he just wasn't as sharp. It wasn't there for him in that go round. And maybe Micah Bucknam's one of those guys who needs a few days in between. So it was a long time, a couple weeks before you saw him again, and he looked just like he did in that Northern Illinois game, where the slider was great. He had the life on the fastball. He pounded the strike zone. I mean, y'all, we can look at Micah Bucknam's stuff right now. You're looking at 9 pitches, 9 of them for strikes. It doesn't get more dominant than they're going to reward that kid. He's going to pitch against Florida. And if he executes like that, he's going to obviously have success, and you could see his role grow. That's really exciting for me coming out of this game is Micah Buckner. So I can't wait to watch him this weekend. And I'm serious. I'll be shocked. I will be shocked if he does not get some time against Florida. I don't think it'll be Friday. They're going to give him some days in between, but they're going to give him mound time against the Florida Gators, and I'm here for it. Let's wrap it up with some overall thoughts offensively here. We talked about Tommy White right in the open. How could you not? I mean, he's up to 348 now. He went into that Mississippi State series hitting like 310 or so. He's up to 348. He's up to 6 homers. The RBI total's starting to climb again. Like, Tommy is finding it. He's using all fields. He's stinging the baseball. The power is back. He's hitting the Tommy again, which I'm all for. That celebration should have never went away for the little bit of the time this year. I'm glad it's back. Hope he keeps it going. Tommy White is looking like Tommy White, and it couldn't happen at a better time. One thing we wanted to see, we mentioned it on the preview, one thing we wanted to see in this game is the guys who did start to take strides against Mississippi State continue that. Tommy White was on that list. I think 4 for 5 with a homer, a double, a couple singles, and 2 RBI qualifies as continuing on that trajectory. Josh Pearson was another guy that we want to come that we wanted to come back, that we wanted to continue what he was doing. 2 for 3, RBI. That definitely qualifies. What really intrigues me about Pearson, the 2 hits he had tonight, both came off of left-handed pitchers. They were both left on left. That tells you he's seeing the baseball, y'all, and he's being able to stay real disciplined at the plate and keep the front side closed. So I loved that from Pearson. Michael Braswell was another one. Braswell, he put the ball in every single time he came up to the plate, didn't strike out, so that was huge, and ended up with a hit, drove in 2 runs as well. That's continuing a step in the right direction. I mean, I look at Braswell, he's at 274. What have we said so much about Braswell? If Michael Braswell can hit 280, 285, I'm good. Kid can play shortstop for me every single day. He's creeping up towards that. That's good. It lengthens this lineup. So having guys like Pearson, having guys like Braswell continue, it lengthens the lineup a little bit. We got to talk about Paxton Kling. There's a few positives for Paxton Kling tonight, y'all. And I saw some numerous people in the chat asking if he plays Friday. I think he does. Yes, I think you'll see him back in there. I don't ever think it was going to be a long hiatus for him out of the lineup. They need him in there to get where they want to go. The ceiling's just too high. He was always going to have a long leash. The important thing for me with him tonight, he reached base 3 times. He went 1 for 2, had a double, was hit by a pitch, and I believe, I thought he drew a walk. He did not. So, excuse me. He reached base twice in 2 official at-bats, but reached base twice and did not strike out. That's the big thing. Maybe, not saying it is, but maybe that's a sign of him starting to see the baseball a little bit better again. For him not to strike out, that's massive. I mean, y'all remember, or maybe you won't. If you don't, when we recap the first North Dakota State game, Kling had a really rough day. He was 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. Going into that second one, the one thing I said, I'm like, you know what? Here's what I don't even care if Paxton Kling gets a hit the next day. I just don't want him to strike out. He struck out 2 times. So to watch him go through this and not punch, that's encouraging to me. We'll see if he can build off of that. Because, again, that will lengthen your lineup. I loved seeing Ethan Fry get back out there. How about this? We gave you the injury update from Jay Johnson from his mouth yesterday on the show, and he talked about, a week or 2 weeks maybe, for Fry, and he gets in there and gets an AB. Now Dustin B, I'll get to that momentarily. He's asking about Jaden Newt. We'll get to that momentarily. He's out there. Fry. He's not ready to play the field yet. That's more of where the 1 to 2 things, I guess, comes in there. But he's able to swing a bat. That's a valuable pinch hit that you potentially have on your bench right now heading into the Florida series. So love seeing him get back in there. I think it was Noah. Noah said Milazzo and Milam were the only guys without a hit. I hate speculating on things like this because mobility looks fine for Stephen Milam. But I do wonder if maybe he's just not all the way 100% after tweaking that knee. But like I said, mobility feels I don't even like speculating on something like that. I think he's just finally kind of maybe hitting the slump. But we'll see. I mean, I think you're going to keep him in there as well. So Still very high on him. It's just it's a long season for him now. That's what you're gonna have to really see. So another 0 for night there, but man, he's been off to a great start so far. So uh, you'll go through some of the growing pains, and he has a great future at LSU. All of y'all are right who are posted in the chat right now that he's the next great Tiger. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Okay, let's close. Dustin Blanchard or Dustin B. I don't know why I said Blanchard. Is that actually your last name, Dustin? If it is, say yes in the chat. He asked timetable on Jaden Newt. So going into the season, the timetable was April, early April, like really early April, like the first week of April. And Jay Johnson on Monday. Oh, it is great. Thank you. Look at that. I don't know where I got that. Was that a lucky guess, Dustin, or did I see that somewhere else? Maybe on Twitter. I don't know. So early April was the time I'm headed into the season. Jay Johnson actually was asked about Jaden Newt on Monday and said April. So I don't know if it's still early April. All he said was April, but he's still on track. He's throwing bullpens from the rubber, like he's looking good, and that's going to be something very intriguing. And with him coming back that early, that gives you probably a month and a half before June to really get him out on time and get him going. So that's massive. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. Y'all smash the like button and get subscribed up. Favorite podcast app, get subscribed to the YouTube channel. All of that greatly appreciated. LSU an 11-1 run rule winner over La Tech. Things that really stood out. Guys we wanted to see continue to hit the ball, who started it in state, did. Tommy White, Josh Pearson, Michael Braswell. Do we have something to build off from Pac? And then on the mound, loved Micah Bucknam, loved Cam Johnson, and loved the amount of runners LSU was able to strand in this ball game. So, great win. It's just one. You got a lot of work to do this weekend, and we will have you covered completely wall to wall here on Musso at the Box. So again, get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app or the YouTube channel. All of that greatly appreciated. Y'all be here next time for Musso at the Box.